Hi, welcome back to PMC Knives and Tools. A little discussion video today about the things that I've been using and carrying most lately. The practical things, basically, rather than the showy things. We all are guilty, I think, at some point of showing off the showy things in our collections, but I wanted to show off the things that I've actually been doing real work with, whether that be in my job or day to day at home and around the homestead and that sort of thing. So I've got this little leather belt slip here, which I've been carrying at work. Now, I work as an in-house maintenance manager for a commercial football stadium, so my job's pretty varied. It involves lots of different tasks, and as a qualified multi-tradesman, I've always got something to do. I have a torch, which has a built-in lighter, but I also carry an actual cigarette lighter. I'm a non-smoker, but I do have to occasionally burn green waste and things like that. I've taken to carrying, I usually carry a pen, but I've taken to carrying a fountain pen recently. No particular reason other than, honestly, it just feels quite nice to write with. So when I'm taking notes, I also have a little notepad, but I haven't included that here because it's just a regular paper notepad. When I'm taking notes at work for maintenance lists, I have to write down what I'm going to do, what I've done, materials I might need. And honestly, a fountain pen just feels nice to write with. There's nothing particularly special about this one. It's just a cheap one that I bought on the internet that came with a load of refills for just a few pounds. So just a run-of-the-mill standard refill it takes. But it's just a nice feeling to write with rather than an ordinary ballpoint. And of course, the trusty pencil, well sharpened as you can see, for marking timber if I'm doing cuts. Just this week I had to replace some door frames and locks because they'd become damaged, so I was marking timber for that. Now, on that occasion, I also had on my belt this multi-tool, and I didn't have my full tool set at work with me that day because I hadn't been planning. There was no planned joinery carpentry maintenance that day. This happened to get broken, get damaged by chance or accident, and someone came to me and said, "Oh, one of the door locks is broken. We can't get access to this security area that they need into." So all I had on me was this little pouch here and this cheap multi-tool which I keep on my belt, and I had a hammer and I had a slotted screwdriver and a drill. So what I did was I used all those tools to break out the existing door frame, which allowed me to then access the lock, force open the door, remove the lock, replace the lock with a new barrel, and then fit a new door frame. So the door standard and the door check, which I used 2x-inch dressed timber for, and this little multi-tool did all of that with the exception of the drill work. So I'm pretty impressed with it. I don't like carrying one of my expensive multi-tools at work for that very reason. You can see I've been at the back end here, I've been literally hitting it with a hammer to use it to pry the existing door frame off, and this was the tool that I used as prying. Now, I mentioned in one of my previous videos, I think it was my multi-tool collection video, that this is the second version of this multi-tool that I've bought. The original one cost me £11, and I used it at work and used this tool here to pry something and snapped it clean off. So then I tried to fix that, couldn't get the part replaced, the spring came out of the plier, and I threw it in the bin. I bought another one, the exact same model, again unbranded, for £5. So the original one was £11, the replacement was £5. And this time I did even harder prying with it, and it survived and excelled. Again, this one's unbranded from AliExpress for £5, but I have seen them online on places like Amazon and elsewhere on the internet under the brand Die Camping or Day Camping, I don't know how you pronounce it. sometimes called a DL20, I want to say, something like that. But it's basically a sprung Weatherman style plier with replaceable wire cutters and a built-in pocket clip. Now the tools on it are not fully sized, even by multi-tool standards. They're a little small, with the exception of the blade. You know, the screwdriver, the saw, etc. But the saw performed very well cutting 2x-inch dressed timber. No problems at all. Didn't bind up, even given how short and stubby it is. It cut very well. And then me hammering away on it, using it as a pry tool, did not snap the file. It's bent it. You'll see it's crooked. But it didn't snap, and I'm really impressed. The lock did fail a couple of times during that process, but it hasn't damaged it. It just was knocked out of battery briefly by the hammering, which isn't surprising. But other than that bend that you can see, it hasn't damaged it. And that was me literally hitting the back end of it here with a claw hammer, using it to pry off an existing door frame. So really impressed with that, and that's exactly why I don't use my good multi-tools, things like my Victorinox Swiss tool, or you know, one of my Leatherman multi-tools at work, because I really am hard on them. And my work can be quite dirty as well. You know, you don't want to be getting your maybe I'm being too precious here, maybe you guys feel differently. Let me know if you do. You know, I'm a bit of a hypocrite, because I do think your tools should pay for themselves, they should work, and you should use the things you own. But likewise, I just don't want to damage something really expensive or precious to me, like the Victorinox Swiss tool, or you know, my Leatherman Skelly tool or whatever. So yeah, really impressed with the performance and sturdiness of this second iteration of this weird cheap multi-tool. So that has been getting used a lot of work lately. The blade was all burned recently when I was burning some green waste, so I cleaned it just with ordinary soap and water. Not particularly thoroughly, you'll see it still got some crud on it. And give it a quick sharpen just on a kitchen butcher steel honing rod. Just enough for things like stripping down boxes and that sort of stuff. So that was really put to work hard lately at work, along with this, which is just for, you know, lighting dark hallways when I'm going from one end of the commercial premises to the other, etc, etc. That's all by the by, all run-of-the-mill stuff. This little, I dug a couple of things out of my collection recently that I don't use much and bought for not a lot of money quite a long time ago, just for kind of for novelty, really. Do you remember these Bear Grylls Gerber collaborations some years ago? I bought this years ago. These were really cheap. I think it was called the Mini Scout, something like that. They were really cheap, quite flimsy, nameless steel little lockbacks. You know, this one's got the logo worn off and stuff. I dug it out recently just for kind of novelty's sake. You know, I bought it when I was a young man that didn't know much about fancy pocket knives. And I gave it a little sharpen, and I've just been throwing it in my pocket recently just for novelty's sake. It cuts fine. It won't stand up to any kind of hard use because it is pretty flimsy. This one was really loose, so I just, with a couple of Torx drivers, just tightened it up. Took the blade play out of it. But other than that, it's a perfectly serviceable little lockback pocket knife. Very, very light, very flimsy, but it cuts lots of things, and that's all I really care about and all I need it for. So I've been throwing that in my pocket recently just because it's nice and light and slicey. This one, again, super cheap, kind of traditional lockback style, vaguely buck-ish. I've been desperately trying for ages now to like this and to get a good edge on it, because I'm a bit of a fan of traditional style pocket knives. I'm sure you have noticed that if you've been watching any of my videos for a while now. Again, just nameless stainless steel, very shiny, very glossy, probably not a lot of carbon in this one. Cannot seem to get a really good steady edge on this. You can see there's a bit of blade creep where I've just sharpened it over and over and over again. I've used every different sharpening method other than powered sharpeners. I've got two powered sharpeners. One is a full belt system with grinding wheel, and another is like an electric kitchen knife, ceramic spinning wheel type thing. I haven't used either of those on it because I think A, that would be overkill, and B, that would just destroy what's left of the blade. But getting a steady edge on this has been a real chore. I did use this at work this week to strip down a load of cardboard boxes for recycling. Because it's a commercial facility, you know, we generate a lot of waste, so I had an awful lot of cardboard boxes to strip down, and I used this for it. And about halfway through, the blade edge had already dulled, and I was basically just tearing the boxes with it rather than cutting them. So I don't know why I persevere with it. I might just throw it back in the collection of kind of pieces that I own that don't really carry. But lately, I've been trying to use it for reasons that I don't quite understand myself. But there you go. Maybe I'm eccentric. The Victorinox Waiter is a great little knife. Very basic, very cheap, quite small, very light, and just does quite a lot for a small package. So this has been in my pocket quite a bit lately. It's got they call it the combination tool. So it's a flathead screwdriver, which is also a bottle opener, but it's also a can opener too. And it works in reverse from the way the Victorinox tin openers usually work. So you usually push forward on this one, you pull backwards, or vice versa, you know, whatever. This is the 84mm size, so slightly smaller than a standard Victorinox 91mm. There you go, you can see a comparison there. But for only having 3 sort of tools on it and being one layer thick, and then the tweezers and toothpick, it really gets through quite a bit. It's quite a useful little tool, and the combination tool will do more than you think. You know, it'll do light prying, it'll turn Phillips head screws if you hold it at a bit of an angle, as well as flathead, slotted. And the blade's always handy to have, nice and sharp. Completely UK legal, non-threatening, slips into the pocket so light it disappears. With all Victorinox knives as ever, they take a wicked edge and they're super easy to resharpen. So yeah, I do like this one. This is my second Victorinox Waiter. I gave the other one to a neighbour, just as a little gift, and decided to then rebuy it. Yeah, I recommend the Victorinox Waiter. You long-time viewers will know that I'm a big, huge fan of the Victorinox Spartan, which is the 91mm 2-layer. But if you don't fancy the 2-layer or the 91mm, or you want something cheaper or lighter, I would recommend the Waiter. It's going to do pretty much the same stuff as the Spartan does, within reason, but be 7mm smaller, shorter, and ever so slightly cheaper, very light, 1 layer, can't go wrong, excellent bit of kit. And lastly, I've been carrying my custom-made Victorinox Spidernox Custom with a Bird Tern blade. Bird is Spyderco's cheaper brand. This was made for me by a guy in Tennessee. It's got all acid wash tools. I did a full review of this a while back, that's on the channel. It cost me £250 at the time, a couple of years ago when I had it made. It's got titanium scales, the plus scales, so they have the pen in it as well. I do love it. I do love having a Swiss Army knife with a one-handed opening blade, and I love Spyderco blades, albeit this is the Bird Tern, but you know, they are Spyderco owned and it's the same thing. But I don't know that the tool layout 2 years down the line is exactly what I would have wanted if I had my time over again. And I don't intend on spending another £250 to get another one made. So this will stay in my collection and still be used and loved and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But it's one of those things, is the grass greener on the other side? Do you always think, could I have done something differently? But regardless, I've been using this a lot lately. Carrying it a lot lately, and it gets through a lot, even with its kind of, I intentionally, when I designed it, wanted a kind of limited Spartan tool set. Not Spartan as in the Victorinox model, Spartan as in utilitarian, because I knew that I could do a lot of things with a little if I had the right few things. I didn't want the parcel hook, but the guy that made it for me said he couldn't build it without it. Now, lots of other Swiss Army knife custom makers, I have since come to learn, do make them without the parcel hook, so maybe that guy just wasn't that super duper at understanding that, although it is well built, it is well made. But however, I did discover a secondary use for the parcel hook. Because it doesn't have a bottle cap lifter, because I didn't choose to put one on it, I can open beer bottles with it. So there you go. It makes a bit of a mess, but it works. So yeah, I've been carrying this a lot lately. I do love it, I do use it, but I did pay a lot of money for it, and I do think if I had my time again, I might have changed the layout a little. Not having the scissors and the pliers both facing the same way, for example, because that means you can't comfortably access the scissor without first opening the other tools, because if you try to access the scissor without opening the other tools first, it really hurts your fingernail. I know that makes me sound like a big wimp, but seriously, dig your fingernail in there and try and wrench that scissor open. It's not comfortable. It hurts. So yeah, I would like to have them on opposite ends, pointing, facing different ways. I would maybe like to have put the Victorinox combination tool on it in place of the parcel hook, because I think the combo tool would be a useful bit of gear. Can the combo tool go on the back? I don't know, that's a question for custom Swiss Army knife makers, I guess. But yeah, do like it, do love it. But I've always wondered, or I've often wondered over the years, would I have done things differently if I designed it again? But then at the time that I designed it, this is exactly what I asked for and is exactly what I wanted. So maybe it's simply a case of my experience of using it. My experience and tastes have changed slightly. For example, I usually carry a Victorinox Swiss Champ more often than not, and perhaps because I carry the Swiss Champ so often, I've gotten a little bit spoiled with the variety and amount of tools that are on that and the convenience of where they're all placed. Perhaps that is reflected in my attitude towards my custom Spidernox. But regardless, it is still a lovely piece, very well made, exactly to the standard that I asked for at the time, and I do still really enjoy it. So those are the ones that I've actually been using, and in this case here, really hard using, abusing you might say. I mean, whacking it with a glow hammer for an hour to pry off a really well secured door frame, and really impressed with how that's held up, because the first one that I had, which was exactly the same, snapped when I was prying something with it that was lighter and less well secured. So maybe it was a bad batch, don't know, can't say, but yeah, these are the ones that have been using the last week or two, and really haven't gone into my collection for anything else other than these recently. I've just been throwing them on the shelf or in a drawer, and when I get up to go to work or go out, getting one or more of these out and going out about my day with them. So I think I probably have given up with trying to get a reliable edge on this cheap lockback. I think it probably isn't possible to get a better edge than the one that's currently on it. It is sharp, it just won't stay that way. So I think I probably will just throw that back into my sort of back of the drawer collection. Still kind of enjoying the novelty of this silly little thing. God, when did I get this? When was all that Bear Grylls Gerber stuff? Like 20 years ago? I don't think I've had it that long, but it's a long time. I'm sure it came in a twin pack with the Gerber Vice. It wasn't the Dime. I think it was the Vice. I'm sure it was this, the Gerber Vice, and a little survival booklet came in a twin pack. It must have been no, if it wasn't 20 years ago, then it was certainly more than 10 years ago, a long time ago. And the Vice has long since gone. I discovered that the dime was actually the better of the Gerber keychain multi-tools, and replaced it with that. And then I replaced the dime, and then I got another dime, and then I gave that dime away. I think it was part of the giveaway that I did on the channel. But this thing has survived on at the back of my drawer, forgotten about, until very recently when I was having a bit of a clear out, having a bit of a rearrange, digging through things, and rediscovered it, and threw it in my pocket just for novelty's sake, tightened up the blade play, and it's just kind of fun. It's silly, and it's a bit goofy, and it's cheaply made, and it's pretty flimsy, but it cuts things, and it doesn't. I ask no great demands of it, and therefore it performs relatively well. That Gerber Bear Grylls range was all pretty shitty stuff. It was all pretty poorly made and nameless steels, and the fixed blades were all they looked like cool Rambo knives in bright orange colours, but they didn't hold an edge and all that. It was all pretty gimmicky stuff. But I think as young men we were all a bit, or some of us were a bit, oh look, it's sharp and shiny. I've always been a Ray Mears guy, but I just can't afford to buy his woodlore knife that's got like an 8-year waiting list. So that's another story. Right guys, that'll do me for today, but thanks for listening. Have a great day, whatever you're doing. The weather here in the west of Scotland is currently terrible. We're having a wet spring at the minute. So go about your day, stay safe, stay sharp, stay legal, look after yourselves, take care. All the best.